मेरी इस तरह से वीडियो ठीक है या फिर वो वर्टिकली रख दूँ? स्टूडेंट्स, आपको मेरी वीडियो ठीक आ रही है? अगर मेरी वीडियो ठीक है और मेरी वॉइस का कोई इशू नहीं है तो मुझे काइंडली आप बता दें। वालेकुम अस्सलाम। आप मुझे ये बताएंगे मेरी वीडियो ठीक आ रही है? और वॉइस भी ठीक है, ब्लर वगैरह तो नहीं है? चलें, लेट्स वेट फॉर okay, all right, let's wait for 2 to 3 minutes and then we will start our lecture. Today's lecture is all about the Khilafat movement, its impact, what were the reasons of the movement, what were the impacts, the non-cooperation movement that was the part of that Khilafat movement, Mopilla revolts, Karachi trials in that movement, how the movement got momentum and how it affected the lives of Indian Muslims at that time. Uh, uh, Later on, we will discuss the impact of Khilafat movement that has led to the full-fledged movement, that was the Pakistan movement. What were basically the positive effects that जिसने मुसलमानों को कंपेल किया था towards Pakistan movement, and how this failed, basically it was a failed movement, how this failed Khilafat movement helped in the success of Pakistan movement, right? ओके, हम इसको थोड़ा सा ना सेट कर दें। वैसे यूट्यूब पे वीडियो पोस्ट करने का नुकसान ये होता है कि लाइव सेशन में स्टूडेंट्स कम हो जाते हैं, इसलिए आई वाज थिंकिंग कि सेशन लाइव ही हो जाए, दैट वुड बी मच बेटर। Okay, let's learn about the Khilafat movement. Khilafat movement basically started with the start of World War One. In the World War One, Ottoman Empire basically sided with Germany, and the Muslims of India, they feared about the fate of Ottoman Empire, right? Because it was obvious at certain time that Germany would be defeated by the Great Britain, America, and the other powers, that is France and Russia. So Muslim basically had a question about the fate of Turkey and the Khilafat, because all of the Muslim of India, they had great ties, they had great emotional ties with the Turkish Khilafat, with the Ottoman Empire. uh, Indian Muslims had deep rooted devotion with Caliphate, first of all. The second one, they had respect for मुझे ये बताएं, मेरी वीडियो उल्टी आ रही है? फिर हम इसको दोबारा से स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं लेक्चर को। स्टूडेंट्स, ये वीडियो उल्टी आ रही है? ओके फाइन, नो मैम, ओके ठीक है, ठीक है ठीक है। Okay, question for Muslim fate of Turkey and Khilafat. Why the Muslim had the question? There were some reasons. What were the reasons and what were the basic ties with Ottoman Empire? That Indian Muslim had deep-rooted devotion with the Caliphate of that time. They had respect for holy institutions because at that time Medina, Makkah, this Masjid-e-Aqsa and everything that is in Israel right now, all of these things were in the Ottoman Empire. So Muslims had the respect for holy institutions. Yaminud Dola title was given to Mahmud Ghaznavi because he had the allegiance with the Caliphate. So whoever had allegiance with Caliphate, the Muslims of subcontinent always has respect for them always. So they gave Yaminud Dola title to the Mahmud Ghaznavi. It is also an MCQ for Pakistan Affairs that what is the title of Mahmud Ghaznavi? That is Yaminud Dola, or Mahmud Ghaznavi was given the title of Yaminud Dola, right? And then Muhammad Tughlaq, he was also the caliph in subcontinent. He has the coins on which the name of the caliph was inscribed on the coins instead of that king and the ruler, that is Muhammad Tughlaq. Then there comes Delhi Sultanate. They do have the currency that has the names of the caliphs that were inscribed on the currency of that time of subcontinent. Then also in the Juma prayers, it was always the khutbah related to the Ottoman Empire. So that was basically the ties, the emotional, the cultural, the religious ties with the with the Muslims of Hindustan had with Ottoman Empire at that time. So they were really worried about the fate of Ottoman Empire when World War I happened. Why the Muslims were so important for the British at that time, and they said that the Great Britain and America assured the Muslim of subcontinent that the Turkey continued to its original territories and nothing will be done to its caliphate or the religious sites for the Muslims. Why they showed this? Because they need Muslims of subcontinent at that time for World War I. They need the soldiers, the Muslim soldiers. So British Army used the soldiers from the subcontinent in the World War I. When the Muslims had fear about the fate of the holy places, they made Majlis-e Khuddam-e Kaaba on 3rd of December 1919. Why they made Majlis-e Khuddam-e Kaaba? In order to extract a promise from the government that holy places of Muslims would not be harmed at all. At the time of World War, they made Majlis-e Khuddam-e Kaaba just to extract a promise from the government that holy places of Muslims would not be harmed at all. Right? There is a saying that pacts and proposals and pledges are honored only when the rival parties are of equal strength. Remember this thing till now. Pacts and proposals and pledges are always honored when the rival parties are of equal strength. If you don't have the equal strength, or if you are not in the position to fight, then the other party will not honor your pledges, will not honor your proposals, will not honor your pacts. It is a fact. This has happened with the Muslims at that time when they started Khilafat Movement, when they extracted the promise from the government, when the other party like Britain and America won the war, World War I, they just forgot every pact, every promise and every pledge they have made with the Indian Muslims about the fate of Turkey. What they did, the British government planned to dismember Ottoman Empire. First thing, after the World War I, the British government, firstly, they planned to dismember the Ottoman Empire. when this news came to the people of subcontinent, the Muslims of subcontinent, there was a wave of anger at that time, because they had the promise from the British that Ottoman Empire will not be harmed. But when British did not fulfill their promise, there was a wave of anger in the whole subcontinent. All the businessmen, the women, the Aligarh people from Nadwatul Ulma and Deoband, from Peshawar to Akrot, everything was fueled with fire of hatred for the British, for the masters. Because the people of subcontinent, the Muslims of subcontinent, felt deceived by their masters. They felt very deceived that they fought at the side of British with the promise that Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire, will not be harmed. Then there came a protest. Like 15,000 Muslims assembled in Bombay on 20th March, and Khilafat committee was formed. Its committee's president was Seth Jan Muhammad Chotani. Okay? On 5th July 1919, nationwide All India Khilafat Committee was formed, and All India Khilafat Conference was held on 23rd to 24th November 1919. Its president was A.K. Fazlul Haq. Do you people got my point till now? Do you understand what I am saying right now? Okay, let's move on to the resolution. When the Khilafat committee was formed, he passed some resolutions in the committee. What were the resolution? That Muslims of India shall not participate in the celebration of armistice. The first resolution was the Muslim of India should not participate in the celebrations of armistice. Then non-cooperation stance against government if Turkey was treated unfairly in the armistice. Then they put forward a resolution that if the British will not treat Turkey fairly, then they will have a non-cooperation stance. They will boycott the British goods. A delegation to inform British government about the feelings of Muslims on the question of Khilafat. They made a delegation, and they decided to send a delegation to the British to tell them their feelings, the feelings of the Muslims of India. What was the fate of Ottoman Empire? That was decided in the Treaty of Sevres. As a result of Treaty of Sevres, the Ottoman Empire was divided. When the Ottoman Empire was divided, आशर आपको मैं क्लास के एंड में इसका आंसर करती हूँ. अभी हम ये समझ लें, फिर मैं आपको हिस्ट्री से रिलेटेड बताती हूँ. ठीक है. As a result of the Pact of Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Empire was divided. When Ottoman Empire was divided, there was a formal fatwa that was signed by 5 Muslim ulema calling upon the Muslims to non-cooperation. They have decided in the resolution in the committee, so they gave a fatwa, and 500 Muslim ulema signed that fatwa, on which they said that Muslim would have a non-cooperation movement. Then they decided to make a Khilafat delegation. On December 1919, both Congress and Khilafat committee held their meetings simultaneously at Amritsar. You must keep this mind that Khilafat movement was also supported by Hindus. Hindus properly supported Muslims to have non-cooperation. Hindus properly supported Muslims to go to Britain to show their sentiments to their masters. So they were, all in all, they had at that time there were small Hindu-Muslim unity. Later on, I will tell that why this unity was not sustained, or what were the motives for the Hindus at that time. We will discuss it later in this lecture. So on December 1919, Congress and Khilafat Committee held their meeting simultaneously in Amritsar. That coincides with the release of Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar from jail. At that time, Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar was in jail, and Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar came out from the jail, and he joined the meetings. Delegation had a consensus that they would go to England and other European countries to present their demand. Now the charter of delegation. The delegation which was made in the result of that Khilafat conference as Khilafat delegation, it has its own charter. On that charter, they would have to show the European countries and the England about their demands and sentiments. What were the charter? In the charter, the first point was the Sultan of Turkey as the Caliph of Muslims should be kept as the sovereign ruler of an independent state, included Constantinople, Thrace, Anatolia and Armenia. The second one was areas of Hijaz, Syria, Palestine and Iraq which had holy places should be protected from the rule of non-Muslims. Third one was way to independence of India, without which it was impossible to protect Islamic countries. The Muslims came to the point that they should have their own Islamic country and they should get independence, just because if anything happens in other Islamic world, they would be able to protect that. These are 3 points which we always read in our Pak studies books from since our childhood. Trust me, we were not told the good history at that time. So we are again reading this Khilafat movement and Khilafat delegation. It was actually the Khilafat delegation that gave these 3 points that were the main points of Khilafat movement. When the Khilafat delegation went to Britain, they had a magazine started from London. That's name was Muslim Outlook. Muslim Outlook was started from London. It is also an MCQ. Muslim Outlook was started from London. It was about the detailed account on the activities of delegation. That was the meeting with Lloyd George. That was a futile meeting at that time because he did not meet the expectations of the Muslims. He simply said that the fate of the Turkey, as it was the fate of other defeated nations. He said Turkey would meet the same fate as the other defeated nations. Then Turkey would not be allowed to keep non-Turkish areas in its permission. If there are non-Turkish areas, then Turkey would not be allowed to hold that area. So they just dismembered Turkey. On the maps, we usually see that there are just lines and lines and lines, and the areas were not divided due to the ethnicity. The areas were not like Syria, Egypt and everything that was in the Ottoman Empire. You can just judge the map of the world with that time of division. They just divided and dismembered Turkey. The delegation used actually all the sources but met little success and returned to India on October 1920. Then after return, Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar and Sayyid Sulaiman Nadwi declared that independence of India is imperative to protect the Muslims and freedom of Islam. So basically, Khilafat movement was a tool at that time that or you can say the inertia that just triggered the formation of a separate land, that just triggered the emotions of people for a separate homeland, emotions of Muslims for a separate homeland. Okay, we learn about non-cooperation movement. In the conference, they decided that if British will not comply with the demands of Muslims, they will have a non-cooperation movement. So in the non-cooperation movement, it was a new strategy. So an extraordinary meeting of Jamaatul Ulema-e-Hind on September 1920 was held, and they gave a fatwa that was Tarke Muwalat. in the non-cooperation movement, there was a fatwa that is called Tarke Mawalat. In that fatwa, they said that Muslims should resign from government posts, they should renounce the government titles, they should relinquish every honorary office and magistracies, they should boycott the courts, boycott government, school, colleges, or disassociate themselves from all legislative and executive councils. That was the drastic fatwa of the past, that was the drastic thing of the history. On a lighter note, let me tell you one thing, like last night I read a meme, and in that post it was saying that whoever is not happy with the new prime minister, he should resign from the government post. Why? So the thought of Khilafat movement at that time clicked my mind, that it was the same people and the same sentiments. They just people are so vulnerable emotionally that there are so many people who, yes, I will provide you the notes. So people are so emotionally vulnerable that they just came into these kinds of tricks, and at that time people just, like, people renounce all the government titles, left every government job and everything. So it is just because of education that right now we cannot do that type of things. If we do not like such prime minister, or we have some affiliations with other people, or whatever the political parties we are having our affiliation, it doesn't mean that we will leave our jobs, or we will leave our titles, or whatever we have gained in our lives, in our lives, with our struggle and courage, and every passing day of our life which we have spent time on gaining such things. We cannot relinquish that titles, we cannot leave our jobs just because of one sentiment. No, we can stay in the government. Like the Muslims at that time, they could stay in the government, they could stay in the courts, they could stay in the schools, and they could have had a good education at that time, so they could influence their masters. But no, there was a fatwa of Tarke Mawalat, and people at that time, they followed that fatwa blindly. As a result of the fatwa, Muslims says goodbye to their bright future. Literally, they said goodbye to their bright future. Hundreds of thousands of people returned titles, resigned from the jobs, young resigned from government jobs. For those jobs, in last class I said that Sir Syed Ahmed Khan had worked a lot to get Muslims to have good jobs, to have good titles, to have good designations. Muslims just relinquished everything. They just relieved everything just because of that fatwa. They left schools, even 3,000 students only from Calcutta, they left their schools. Only the Aligarh management, it did not oblige with the fatwa because it was taking grant from the government, and it did not oblige with that blind fatwa. And at that thing, Maulana Muhammad Ali, he just parted ways from Aligarh, and he established his own Jamia Millia, just because the Aligarh management was not following the fatwa. What was the Hindu reaction at that time? What you people expect from the Hindus? Their dream came true. It was a vacuum that was created due to the Muslims leaving their government jobs. So the vacuum which was created in the government sector, the Hindus happily filled that vacuum. Complete normalcy. There was a complete normalcy in Hindu university in Calcutta when there was chaos in the subcontinent, when there was chaos in every other university, every other Muslim universities. Even the Hindus, the Gandhi Sahab, he was supporting non-cooperation movement, but they did not agitated anywhere on anything, and they simply had a normal life, and they never resigned from the jobs, nothing at all. And literally Malavia ji was the principal at that time, and he simply the administration simply said that we cannot have any agitation in our university because Malavia ji doesn't agree. That was the simple response. Hindu Muslim unity was shown at that time. That was a very short, but it was on the peak. You may see the short-sightedness of Muslims at that time. They were happily recognized the Vedas as the revealed books. They said the Veda is the revealed book. They prayed in Hindu temples. What Muslims did, they prayed in Hindu temples. They participated in Ramayana Puja. They arranged Ram Leela rituals for the Muslims. They abandoned cow slaughter. They flowed the flowers and sweets in river Ganga. They painted their foreheads with tilak and everything. They did everything which Hindus did at that time. That was the peak of Hindu-Muslim unity. Muslims just showed every kind of support to Hindu community. And some of the Muslims even said that Gandhi deserves to be a prophet. Gandhi would have been a prophet if prophethood would not stop. They even said that. On the other hand, if we look at the Hindus' attitude, on the other hand, what Gandhi was saying at that time, when Muslims were relating Gandhi to the Prophet, the Gandhi Sahib, he was saying that from the point of view of Hindu religion, protection of the cow is extremely necessary. He was protecting his own cow at that time. I'm so sorry, my Hindu community listeners or the viewers. I'm so sorry for that, but this is the history, and I am just representing history here, and it is an admitted fact and admitted stances of Gandhiji at that time. Though he was a great leader, but he was a great leader for his own people. From the point, what Gandhiji was stating at that time, from the point of view of Hindu religion, protection of cow is extremely necessary. Only non-cooperation movement can help in gaining Swaraj, and through Swaraj they can protect the cow. On the other hand, you can analyze what Muslims were doing. They were recognizing their rituals. They were joining them in their rituals, and they were supporting them in their rituals. Right? So that was the Hindu-Muslim unity at the time of non-cooperation movement. After the non-cooperation movement, there was another drastic movement of that time. That was the Hijra Movement. Whatever good thing that has been left for the Muslims, Hijra Movement was the nail in the coffin at that time. What was the Hijrat movement? Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad and Maulana Abdul Bari Farangi Malahis issued a fatwa. There was an fatwa. We are always being smashed by the stupid fatwas of time. I'm so sorry with these harsh words, but if I analyze the history, it was not good for the Muslims. So what was the fatwa? Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad and Maulana Abdul Bari Farangi Malahi issued a fatwa which declared migration from India is desirable for the Muslims after World War I. Why? It is not good to leave your own homeland. It is never ever good to leave your own homeland and go to some other country as a migrated persons. Never. After fatwa, Nazims in every city in the Delhi and thousands of in the Delhi, a central force known as Khuddam-e Muhajirin. There became a Khuddam-e Muhajirin at that time. That was a task force, and Nazims were appointed in every city. Thousands of Muslims sold their properties and migrated to Kabul. What they did, they sold their properties on nominal amounts, on minimal amounts, and they went to Kabul. First, 750 Muhajirs from Sindh via train, they migrated to Kabul, and the leader of that migrated people was at that time barrister Jan Muhammad Junejo. When 750 Muhajirs they migrated to Kabul, It was a warm welcome from the Afghan community, and they had an enthusiastic response. After watching this type of response, the movement get a vigor and a momentum, and within the second week of August, 30,000 Muslims set out to migration. This is nonsense. 30,000 Muslims, they set out for migration to where? To Afghanistan. No. Then after seeing such a huge influx of migrated people, Afghan government just closed their borders on Muslims. But Hindus did, at the other hand, Hindus started buying lands at throwaway prices, nominal charges, throwaway prices. At first, Afghan government welcomed Indian Muslims, but later shut down their frontiers considering their limited resources. Of course, every country has limited resource. No country is willing to have your 30,000 people in their own country. How they can provide food, how they can provide jobs, how they can provide shelter, how? This move at that time, the move was not feasible. But due to the fatwa, yes, India was said as Darul Harab, and thank you so much for reminding me this word. India was at that time called Darul Harab, and it was abstained to live in that Darul Harab for the Muslims. So this the fatwa was given by the Maulanas of that time that the Muslims should migrate from India, from the subcontinent. Hijra movement was ill-advised and opposed by many Muslim ulemas. Literally many Muslim ulemas, they opposed that Hijra movement. And what happened? People suffered harshly, and severe hardships were suffered. The people who just sold their properties, who left their jobs, they came back to Hindustan, and they did not have their home, they did not have their jobs, they were financially downtrodden, they were even not having the shelters at that time. To what end that Hijrat movement helped Muslims? It was a disaster. Then there came Karachi Trials. What were the Karachi Trials? In 1921, there was a resolution in Khilafat Conference. It was to condemn military and police. When they condemned military and police, Maulana Muhammad Ali with 6 others were arrested on treason charges. They were arrested on treason charges except Shankar Acharya. Everyone who was arrested was given 2 years of imprisonment. Maulana Muhammad Ali stayed firm in the stance that they could not kill their Muslim brethren in Arab countries against Islam. At that stance, he was charged with the treason charges, and he was sentenced for 2 years of imprisonment. Maulana Muhammad Ali with 6 others. Then there came Mopilla revolt. What was at that time? What was the Mopilla revolt? In 1921, there was a Malabar district. It was the Muslims or the people of Malabar district were ethnic Arabs. Their landlord were Hindu, but they were ethnic Arabs. So they revolted against their landlords. They revolted against the British rule, because British always targeted the Muslims. British always targeted the Muslims of Malabar district for the revolution, or for the movements and everything. So government wants this area free of Khilafat, and at that time the Khilafat movement was in its full momentum at Malabar district, just because of the Arab ethnic people. So what government wanted? Government wanted this area free of Khilafat movement. So the government banned public Khilafat meetings, and the people of Malabar, they just agitated against this, and they were Mopilla revolts, and the leaders of Mopilla were arrested on August 20, 1921, because there was lawlessness, there was communication networks attacked, railway tracks damaged, wires were cut. That was the revolt. So in the end, the government imposed martial law in Malabar district just because of Mopilla revolt. Yes. These notes were created from the book Trek to Pakistan, but I have read that book like 5 to 6 times thoroughly. Each word of that book is in my mind right now. So I have read this book with my heart, I guess. Okay, the end of Khilafat movement. Now, these are the revolts, Karachi Trials, non-cooperation movement, everything. I don't have the notes of every topic like these. So whatever the notes I have in this form, I'll share them with you. Okay, the end of Khilafat movement. How the Khilafat movement ended? Khilafat movement ended at the incident of Chora Chori. That was a police station, and it was set on the fire. Gandhi announced to discontinue non-cooperation movement after the incident of 1922. Gandhi found that opportunity to just discontinue that non-cooperation movement, because at that time it was so difficult for Gandhi as well to just discontinue the movement. How he could do that? So Gandhi announced to discontinue non-cooperation movement after the incident of Chora Chori in 1922. It was the burning of the police station in that area as an excuse to call off non-cooperation movement. In 1924, Kamal Atatürk Pasha announced the democratic government set up. So the basic purpose that Turkey, the Khilafat would remain as intact or as it is, that was set aside by itself, by the Kamal Atatürk Pasha itself, right? So there was no need to continue that Khilafat movement in subcontinent at that time. In 1924, it was the end of Khilafat movement with the democratic government set up in Turkey. Now, what were the effects of Khilafat movement? Turks themselves admitted that it was due to the speeches and articles of the Indian Muslims that they realized the importance of their national freedom. Can you imagine that what the Indian Muslims did at that time? That Turks themselves admitted this fact. Okay, the greatest effect was in Indian Muslim. It was a strong political consciousness. It was the first movement, first political gathered massive movement by the Muslims of subcontinent, and they learned very hard lessons from their failures. What they learned? They had strong political consciousness at that time. They own identity as political entity. No strong allegiance to British as earlier. They knew the fact that they should not have that strong allegiance to the British. They should not have trusted the British for their promises only or pledges only. Government over the terror of Raj considered going for jail for civil disobedience as a matter of national pride and honor. For that time, Muslims were not familiar with the they do have the fear to go to jails. So once they went to jail, they thought that it is for the national freedom, it is for the pride and for the honor. So the fear to go to jail, that vanished due to that Khilafat movement. Imparted training for agitational politics. Before Khilafat movement, Muslims were not doing agitative politics. Only the Congress was the party that was doing the agitative politics at that time. So Muslims at the end, they get the training of agitational politics, and they said goodbye to the drawing room politics. The movement destroyed the myth of putting applications, requests and memorials. They resorted demonstrations and public meetings in stark violation of government warnings and ultimatums. Muslims get to know at that time that only applications and requests does not matter. Now what matters is your demonstrations, is your public meetings, is your public appearances and the agitational politics. What the Khilafat movement did, it brought extremists and the loyalists at the same page. The extremists and the loyalists, they were at the same page at the time of Khilafat movement. Like Agha Khan and Muhammad Ali and Sayyid Amir Ali and Dr. Muhammad Ali Ansari. They were Agha Khan and Muhammad Ali, they were the extremists, and the loyalists were Sayyid Amir Ali and Muhammad Ali Ansari. Right? So they were on the same page. Grounds and lessons for the Pakistan movement. You can relate clearly that if there is one political failure or the one failed movement, then the other movement will be a success. So there were the grounds and lessons for Pakistan movement. That is why Pakistan movement was a successful movement, because Muslims of India, they have tried a massive political agitative movement in the form of Khilafat movement. Influence the Hindu minds of students and ulama, start taking part in politics. Like the ulamas and the students, they started taking part in politics. First time, it was the realization of the necessity of your separate homeland and a necessity of national free education, free from governmental control. It was for the first time that Muslims thought that they should have a national educational system that should be free from the government control. Just because in future, if there is any kind of agitation, Muslims should not have to leave their schools. Their education should not be affected. Like only 3,000 students from Calcutta, they just skipped the school at the time of Khilafat movement. First time it was the realization. So Jamia Millia, a memento of Khilafat movement. Jamia Millia is a momentum of Khilafat movement, that is an educational institution free from the government control. So that is the Khilafat movement. Strong tradition of sacrifice and selflessness in nation building process that happened to be in the Muslims of subcontinent at that time. It gave the birth to leaders of invincible conviction and unshakable faith, even glad to accept the hangman's noose for truth and right. They could go to jail, they could go to the imprisonments, they could fight on their grounds. Psychologically, Khilafat movement liberated the psyche of the Muslims, right? Because the Muslims, they thought before the Khilafat movement, they thought that they should not do anything that should be against or the massively against the British, or these types of things should not be in the favor of Muslims. But it has liberated the psyche of Muslims, and it removed the influence, the Western influence, from the lifestyles of the Muslims. That was all about Khilafat movement. Any question, if you people have any question, you can ask me in this session. Any question, class? Should I just stop this video or this live session? The notes will be provided in the group and on the Facebook vocabulary page. As you people are preparing for CSS 2022, you should be doing crash courses like current affairs, like international relations if you have, environmental science, governance and public policy. If you people want to study these subjects, you can ask me in the group, and the notes for this session that will be provided on this page. You can also check the MCQs from www.updatedmcqs.com. That is a website for general knowledge. That is a very good website. You can check on that website as well. And all of you know Apple of Knowledge as my as my YouTube channel. So what you people can do for me is just to subscribe that channel and like the videos and watch the videos, and please do not save that videos. Go to the videos and watch these videos on the channel all the time. Do not save my videos. Ma'am, can you evaluate answers of the question? Actually, I do have an idea to evaluate the answers of the question, but I don't think so. I will be evaluating the answers of every student. If anyone is interested, he could get the registration. So I asked from the exam point of view. What you asked from the exam point of view, Aishar Sajjad? What did you ask? Actually, we have decided to have mock exams and mock session. You can join that mock session. History part. Like Khilafat movement is important. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is important. I'm not teaching you all the history like other short events, but you people must have a great grip on the history. Like in this lecture, I just related the last night's incident when someone has posted that you should leave the government job if you do not like the prime minister. So I just related that status or that post with the Khilafat movement. What the people had done at that time, we will not repeat the same mistakes. नेक्स्ट क्लास टॉपिक मैं आपको ग्रुप में आई विल टेल यू इन द ग्रुप मैम व्हाट वाज द मेन रीज़न और कॉज बिहाइंड द खिलाफत मूवमेंट इनिशिएटेड टर्किश मुस्लिम मुजद्दिद राना मैंने आई हैव टोल्ड यू पीपल in the very start of this lecture why this movement has started. I will repeat my answer. Like, this movement was started because the Muslims of India, they do have fear for the fate of Turkey, Ottoman Empire at the end of World War I, because Ottoman Empire was siding with Germany, and Germany was defeating at that was a defeated country at that time. So that was the basic reason the Khilafat movement started, because the people of subcontinent, they never wanted to participate in the war of independence from the British side, due to the fear that if the British will get the victory, what would be the fate of the Ottoman Empire, because they had a huge respect for Ottoman Empire, for the Khilafat at that time. So the British assured and the Americans assured the Muslims of subcontinent that the Turkey would not be dismembered. No. I don't think so that you should be starting from the Mughal Empire or Mughal dynasty. Yes, you should have some kind of information and knowledge about the Mughal dynasties, but I really don't think so that in current scenario the paper of Pak affairs relate to such kind of late history. But what I personally think that you should be having a great grip on the pre partition events, like after 1857 you should know that what had happened for the formation of Pakistan, because right now we the problems in which we are being entangled, they seriously relates with our historic events as well. Okay, thank you so much, guys. You can ask the question on my YouTube channel, Apple of Knowledge. If you have any other questions, you can ask from there as well. Mujaddid Rana, watch time definitely matters. Are you paying me for this lecture? Or am I asking you to pay me something for this lecture? If you don't want to watch on my YouTube channel, I'm not forcing you to watch the video from there. So if someone is nice to you, you should be nice in return. Thank you so much, everyone.